So I was pretty bummed out when the Gatorade shower happened at the Super Bowl yesterday. First, they didn't show it, so everyone was very confused. Twitter was erupting over what color was the Gatorade. I want to know. Like, I put money on this. Eventually, we found out it was blue Gatorade, and I was pretty bummed out because I picked green. And then a couple hours later, I remembered I said on the show on Friday that if it was blue Gatorade or green, I would dump it on my head. So I was even more bummed out. But I guess it's a day later, and you guys are all great fans, so I figured here goes nothing. I got the blue Gatorade, and here we go. Oh. So that happened. I know I said go green, but I also gave you a little treat and said maybe pick blue. I think that's got a little bit of a sleeper shot, But welcome back to Coast Sports, the only show for the fans, by the fans. I'm Michael Fiumefreddo, and what a game last night, and a great showing all around by the 2021 Super Bowl 55 champions of the National Football League, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They defeated the Kansas City Chiefs 31-9, and of course, nobody other than Tom Brady, the quarterback, the 43-year-old quarterback for that matter, was crowned Super Bowl MVP. It's his 5th award, and if you can see the counter behind me, that is his 7th overall ring, his 7th Super Bowl champion, and his first outside of the New England Patriots organization and head coach Bill Belichick. So let's talk about that narrative for a little bit, because I think this is one of Tom Brady's best Super Bowl performances ever. I mean, he didn't really have the yardage that you'd see from him in past years. He only had 201, but that's all he really needed to do. His team was up big throughout the game, and they just kind of wanted to run out the clock come the second half. He threw for 3 touchdown passes, and overall his performance was flawless. He only had 8 incompletions all game, a lot of those coming on the first couple drives. And overall, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had no turnovers. But I think the craziest part about all this is at 43 years old, Tom Brady looks like a top 10 quarterback still. And as he said in his MVP speech after the game, he wants to come back for another year. He's got one more year left on his contract. The team's there. They just won a Super Bowl, for crying out loud. Why not go try it again, win another one, get to 8th ring? But with that said, Tom Brady is coming back for another NFL season. He's been in the league as many years as I've been alive. And if he does come back, if he stays true to his word come August, when the NFL season gets started up again, he's going to be the first quarterback to throw for 600 passing touchdowns career-wise. He's already got 581. That'll be the most all-time. He's already got the most passing yards of all time as well, so he'll add on to that for that matter. And he'll also have the chance to make his 11th Super Bowl appearance, as well as win his 8th ring. And that sounds crazy to me, and it's not like he's facing against the NFC East that's given him so much trouble in the Super Bowl in years past. He'll be the NFC representative once again. But honestly, you can't count out Tom Brady to do that one more time, especially if he's going to be 44. Says he wants to play to 45, but I don't know how accurate that is. We'll have to wait and see on that. That's still another year in advance. But let's talk about something that I was right on. And don't mean to toot my own horn, but I tend to do that a lot on this show because, when you're right, and you want to say that you're right. So I said on Friday that the Super Bowl hangover was going to kick in for the Kansas City Chiefs at some point this year, and I think it did in this Super Bowl. Now you can make the argument, Mahomes was missing his left tackle, his right guard, he was without Mitchell Schwartz and Eric Fisher, his center didn't practice because of the COVID protocol, but that doesn't make up for all the mistakes around the team. You had Tyreek Hill dropping passes. Travis Kelce wasn't good until the second half of the game. Tyrann Mathieu, who was very vocal to Tom Brady, there was a little trash talk going back and forth there, and Tom Brady actually apologized for what was going on during the game, but he gave up pass interference on a play that really changed the game in the end of the second quarter. Going into halftime, the Patriots, instead of lining up for a field goal, they had to go for a touchdown because they got the ball within the 10-yard line and were able to score on the next possession. There was also an offsides on a field goal attempt by the Buccaneers, which gave the Buccaneers the first down, and they were able to score a touchdown there as well. So 4 total touchdowns were given up by that defense. 11 total penalties for 120 yards on the Kansas City side of the ball. And looking at Mahomes, this was his first career game where he didn't throw a touchdown pass. And like I said last week, he hasn't performed well in the Super Bowl. That's now his second appearance, and he's only had 1 good quarter of action. He's thrown 4 career Super Bowl interceptions, which honestly, at this rate, might be more than he's thrown in his career in general. That's got to be some kind of stat to look up. But 26 for 49, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns, like I said, and the team just did not look good at all. So who do you give the credit to? And is this going to be Patrick Mahomes' narrative? Is he just going to be a regular season guy that gets his team to the playoff and then he kind of just falls off when the game matters most? Is he not going to be able to lead the team? Or are they just going to be so confident that they can win games with Patrick Mahomes that when they face up against a team that's got a veteran quarterback like Tom Brady or maybe even Aaron Rodgers if once Brady retires, what's going to be the story then? Is he just going to be another guy that makes it to the big games and doesn't perform? I'm going to say no. I mean, he was dealing with a toe injury. I think he's getting surgery on that now that the season's over. Like I said, it was big that he missed his left tackle, Eric Fisher, and Mitchell Schwartz, who is arguably the Chiefs' best lineman. I'm going to say no. He's still talented. I don't think he's at the conversation of GOAT yet. I think if he won that game, he might be 1 step closer to that. But like I said last week, he's got basically a third of Tom Brady's touchdowns in his first 2 years as a pro. He's already made 2 Super Bowls. So eventually, if he keeps up this pace, he'll be in that conversation at some point. Hopefully he can win more than he loses, and we don't have a LeBron narrative on our hands. But I also got to give credit where credit is due. And that's to former New York Jet head coach and now current Super Bowl hero, I guess, the defensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that's Todd Bowles. Because I watched Todd Bowles for 4 years in New York. And he was supposed to be this defensive-minded guy, really lead a team. His first year was phenomenal, and then bad quarterback play kind of just fell off. He was never really cut out to be a head coach. He was always a great defensive coordinator that can get the job done. But when it came to the offensive side of the ball, he needed that extra guy to help him out. But he's probably the first defensive coordinator that I've seen stop Patrick Mahomes from scoring a touchdown, technically. It was his first career game without a touchdown. But he was the first guy to really give him trouble and make him panic. Pretty much every drop back was a pressure or a sack for Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And like we saw in the beginning of the season, or earlier in the season, this was a rematch where the Chiefs actually won the game against Tampa Bay. Tyreek Hill scored 3 touchdowns on 250-some yards. This week they doubled Tyreek Hill. They put the safety over the top. They switched to 2 safeties back instead of 1. And that really made a difference. Mahomes struggled with that. They took advantage of the fact that they were missing key pieces on the offensive line, and with a front 7 like the Tampa Bay Bucs have, you're looking at a guy that's going to put pressure on Patrick Mahomes every chance he gets. The run game wasn't really there for the Chiefs either. So I'm looking at Todd Bowles. I think he has a lot more credit than many people are going to give him. I think maybe if they were up to it, you don't dump the blue Gatorade on Andy Reid. You dump it on Todd Bowles. Because when you go up against a team like the Chiefs that are averaging 29, 30 points a game, and they only put up 9, in the Super Bowl, that's something that's, I don't think it's ever been done unless you saw a few years back when the Seattle Seahawks Legion of Boom just decimated Peyton Manning. But that's how the game went. I did bet the over because I thought Patrick Mahomes would play a little better, but it just didn't happen, and you got to give credit to the defense. Like I said, Tom Brady was phenomenal as well, and I think we got a pretty good story on our hands going into next year. Can Tom Brady ride off into the sunset, or should he have just retired at the end of this game? Now I want to flip over back to some of the offensive or the off-season moves now, because the NFL season's over. We got, I believe, 8 months until the season starts up again, but 1 month before the start of the league year, which is honestly one of my favorite days of the year. We see all the moves that go on. We start to get the rumors flowing. We start to see the combine, which hasn't happened, but we'll definitely be focusing on those pro days for some of the big names in the draft, especially at the quarterback position. We want to see Trevor Lawrence, what he can do at Clemson's pro day. The Justin Fields-Zach Wilson battle for number 2 is heating up. I think that's going to be an interesting story to watch. And where does Devonta Smith go? The Heisman winner at the wide receiver position could go as early as number 2, people are saying. But there's also some guys like Jamar Chase or his teammate Jalen Waddle that you could see go higher up in the draft than him, just based off of how they perform in the pro days, their physicals, what they measure in as. I know Devonta Smith isn't the biggest guy in the game, so that might scare teams off. But right now, we're looking at the guys that are currently in the NFL and could be on the move. For some reason, we still haven't heard anything on Deshaun Watson. And that's starting to scare me a little bit, because I don't know who's made a call yet to the Houston Texans organization. Have the Jets offered up any picks? Has Denver, who's been very vocal about bringing in a new quarterback, said anything? What about the Lions? Have they offered up Stafford to them? Or the Rams? Have they tried to get up Goff and then they just found a better deal? I don't even know who wants Deshaun Watson. I'm sure there's a lot of teams that do, but I don't think they're getting him at the right price they think they can. So we're just going to have to wait and see on that. But this is very interesting now, because what happens if the Houston Texans can't make a move? They just hired David Culley as their head coach, who might be one of the worst quarterback coaches we've ever seen. When he was at Kansas City, they didn't throw a touchdown to a wide receiver that whole year. It was only the tight ends and running backs. And that's who they picked to maybe salvage their chances of keeping Deshaun Watson? I don't think that was the right move for them. But there are being some rumors flying around that Carson Wentz, the former Eagles quarterback, could be on the move very soon. And we saw this break on Saturday where the Eagles came out and said Carson Wentz can be traded as early as this week. And the two teams that are the top contenders right now that have shown interest are the Indianapolis Colts and the Chicago Bears. And on the Indianapolis Colts organization, might be one of the best fits we've ever seen. Frank Reich is going to be the head coach still, and that's the guy that, when he was the offensive coordinator of Philly, Carson Wentz was an MVP candidate. So now you pair the head coach with a guy that he almost had win an MVP if he didn't get hurt, on a team that just made it to the playoffs. I think that's a match made in heaven, but you got to keep an eye out for the Chicago Bears, because they're a team that's got a bunch of depth on both sides of the ball. They're looking to make an upgraded quarterback, and I think they have the assets to do it. Now, they could even trade back Nick Foles for his third stint in Philadelphia. Maybe they win another Super Bowl there. But the Bears could be interesting, because I think Carson Wentz is a much better fit with the Colts. The Colts know he's their perfect quarterback, and they can get him at a cheap price, and I think they'll give whatever they need to get him. But if the Bears miss out on Carson Wentz, I think that's going to motivate them to make the move for Deshaun Watson. Because obviously they're open to making an upgraded quarterback for Mitch Trubisky. Like I said, they have the assets to not give up their entire future in draft capital for him. And we know for a fact that soon enough, teams are going to start making calls for Deshaun Watson when the price gets right. Like I said, the Jets can make the call. Denver is a big candidate. I think they can really make an impact. And keep an eye on San Francisco now. On a bunch of all those teams in that category, I said. Maybe even New England could make something happen. The Saints, if they don't feel Taysom Hill's the right guy. Keep an eye on these teams that finally coming out and saying, look, we just offered the Houston Texans for Deshaun Watson. Let's see what they say. Let the rumors start flying, and then Chicago could come and swoop them up. I think this is going to be motivation for them. I think the quarterback market is going to start dwindling at a certain point, and Deshaun Watson's the best one in the class right now. You could argue you could want Trevor Lawrence over him, so those two guys are going to be the top two quarterbacks available right now, and some team's going to have to make the move. But anyway, that's still a month in advance. We're going to have to start switching over to some NBA, some MLB news, maybe even some hockey. I'll bring in my hockey associates. I want to start getting back into the casual Saturdays, and we'll see, because I got a lot of guys that are lining up and asking when they're gonna come on. So, with that said, once again, I'm Michael Fiumefreddo. You're watching Coast to Coast Sports, the only show for the fans, by the fans. Go get some blue Gatorade while you watch this episode to just go celebrate the Super Bowl win with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.